Friday, a little snowy, gloomy here in Colorado, but I have got a bright partner with me today, Cambria. Cambria, so awesome to have you on as our co-host here. And we're talking about home care, not just, we're not talking just home care for older adults. We're talking home care for veterans as well. We have in Colorado 400,000 veterans who have access to benefits, and of those 400,000, about a third are over the age of 65, which they're entitled to getting some home care support, some other support from some great companies. And we have one of those great companies with us today. So stick with us as we dive deeper into home care with an amazing Texas company that's making some moves in Colorado. But first, a quick message from our sponsor.
This incredible show made possible by our wonderful sponsors, Assured Senior Living, love, it's what we do, and Serenity Engage, where care connects. Now, a brief message from Serenity Engage. Serenity connects aging service providers, older adults, and their loved ones in a single network. Our web, mobile, and smart assistance products power the network that enables real-time, HIPAA-compliant communication, collaboration, and education. When we care together, providers increase revenue and lower expenses, older adults receive better care, and family has greater peace of mind.
And we are back. And with that, I'd love to introduce J.M. Simmons and Beth Neiman of ClearPath Homecare. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start with kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves, please.
So ClearPath Homecare, we started in Texas, 2014, very rurally, which in Texas, that's not really that hard to find because it's such a large state. Now I'm talking about a county where, square miles was huge, but there were probably 6,000 total in the county. So, and then every county around that is about that size or less. So, I actually started the business in Austin. I was single at the time. I'm married to Michelle Simmons now. So we kind of started dating, and I was in Austin, and she said, if you really want to make a difference in this, you need to come up to where she was in the rural part of Texas. There's just nothing like that here. People are still using their family members, and people work, or the kids may move off. So there was a need for that. And I don't know whether I moved there just because she said so or because I wanted to be close to her. Probably a little bit of both, but she basically said, do you want to make money or do you want to make a difference? And I said, well, I'd like to do both. I moved to Breckenridge, Texas, population very small.
Okay.
And, we hung our shingle out. We got licensed by the state of Texas, hung our shingle out, and started working pretty much in maybe like a little 6-county radius. And it just kind of took off. I mean, it was, it was hard work. You struggle and you struggle and you struggle, but you figure things out. We're talking 2014, 15. And at that time, there just really wasn't much available. Even today, if you just Google home care and, just asking questions, there's nothing out there. You get home health, you might get a list of home care companies, but there's nobody really teaching on, the best practices. So we kind of had to learn for ourselves and made a lot of mistakes, but we figured our way through, and it's kind of expanded from there. Now we have 7 offices, goes all the way from West Texas out to East Texas, east of Dallas.
Wow.
To the Oklahoma border, and then south as far as Waco. And we'll probably continue to test new markets here in Texas as well. Go ahead.
And is Texas kind of a county by county type license, or how does that work? Because it sounds like you guys are being strategic about your counties.
Yeah, it's county by county. You can't add a county in Texas without being adjacent to one that you already serve.
Wow.
But recently, I think in 2023, we were doing some licensing stuff, and lady from HHS in Texas said, do you want to just add all 254? And we said, yeah, let's do that because it'll just save time. We don't operate in that many counties, but we could if we wanted to.
Wow. Interesting. And so it sounds like, your why really stems from one, impacting people, obviously. And where did that come from? Where did that kind of desire to really have an impact on, the underserved or some of the rural areas?
Well, personally for me, it was from my father. He had he had one pretty good incident where he was alone. My mom had passed away, and that was 3 or 4 hours away. My sisters were even farther away from him, and he got sick. He wound up on the floor overnight, wound up having to go to rehab. I was wound up rehabbing where I was living at the time in Austin, and I was the one who took care of him, and that was my first real experience in taking care of somebody who just needed that extra help to get him through the rehab, to get him back home safe, to set things up correctly for him to be able to continue to live on his own, which that's what he wanted, and he was still young enough and able enough to do it. And then even past that, after we started ClearPath and moved the business to Breckenridge, he wound up having a stroke, a massive stroke. But the good thing was we moved him up to where we were in his own house, which is what he wanted, with 24-hour a day, 7-day a week care. He lived another 5 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really well.
That's great.
It was kind of the test case for us to we can do this. We can make this difference in people and families' lives.
And that's a powerful story, because I think that's, how so many end up is, they have this accident or this issue with a loved one when they're not close enough. And before you know it, it kind of evolves into something else where they need care and they don't know how to find care. So what can you tell for families that are in this kind of chaotic moment of, oh my gosh, mom's in rehab, I don't think she can go home? What are some tips that you can give families on how do you find a home care company, or how do you switch home care companies if the one you have isn't living up to your expectations?
Well, I think immediately, you have to place some calls to people, and you have to ask as many questions as you can. But what I would always do, I always want to put myself in the customer's shoes, is, okay, this is who you say you are. Can you give me 3 to 5 clients that you've taken care of so that I can call them and find out what their experience has been with you? That firsthand knowledge is going to be the best you can get. And I will say this as a home care owner for 11 years, none of us are perfect. There are going to be problems. You're talking about humans. Okay, I'll give you this scenario, and this is me. If I got sick right now and I needed somebody to come into my home, I wouldn't want them in my home. I enjoy my privacy, and I like my independence. That's how people who are 80 and 90 feel. It's a hard thing to bring a perfect stranger in your home. It's one of the most personal things we go through in our lives. And so, you just have to understand where they're coming from and try to reach some level of comfort with who's coming in. And we always tell people, look, this caregiver is great. She's got all the capabilities to take care of you. But if you don't get along with her, let us know. We can make changes. It's not personal. You need to enjoy the time in your home with the person coming in.
Gosh, thank you. First of all, for those of you who have listened to previous podcasts, both professionally and personally, everything you just said resonates so much. And that's the home care company that I want to partner with. One is ask our customers, right? Let them be the spokespeople about what we're great at and where can we improve, and be transparent. So huge shout out to you guys for doing that. And 2 is being really honest. And I think it's about expectation setting across the board, that yes, we are humans and we don't like everyone. And everybody doesn't like us, and it's going to happen, and it's okay. Those are things that we can fix by, trial and error. But at the end of the day, that everyone is checking the boxes on all of the skills and care that legally legally are required in order to be able to support your family member. Like, that's table stakes. The rest of it is sort of the wraparound that makes, I think, you guys continue to be special. And I loved that you said that. And we also have Beth here. And Beth, I wanted, because you do have a longer history in the senior industry and with senior living. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and why you selected to join this team because you've been around and you know what's out there. So that I think there's probably something a little bit special.
Well, thank you. So I've been in senior living over 20 years, mostly in the therapy industry, actually. And I've done numerous position types within the therapy industry, but I knew for quite some time, I really have known that I wanted to get out of therapy, not out of seniors because that's my heart, but out of therapy. And we all know the red tape around therapy and CMS and reimbursement and how that's going. And it makes it for me made it very hard to feel good about doing what we did all the time. Not that I don't believe that therapy is not a good resource, but just the red tape around it was getting to be consuming in not a healthy way. So I actually had met JM and Michelle years ago. And I knew when I met them that I loved them. And I knew I needed to stay in touch with them. They had offered me a job that years ago and I didn't take it. And so many times I had regretted it. But I also knew that I had to do what was right for me in that moment. Well, we talk about it actually a lot that, it took me so long to come on board. But I said, I gained so many valuable tools and experience that really are making a difference for ClearPath Homecare now. And I knew that this was the company I wanted to be with because I knew JM and Michelle and I knew their heart and I knew their culture for their company and where they wanted to take it and their vision. So I knew that and I loved that so much, but I loved them as people. And so when they came to me and they're like, hey, so we're thinking about this thing. And I was like, really, let's talk about that. They're like, well, maybe, let's just keep talking about it. I said, that's fine. We talked about it. The next time we talked, they're like, so can you work for us tomorrow? I said, that was out of left field. I wasn't expecting that. But yes, so, God works in mysterious ways. And it was all about timing. And the timing was perfect. And I was just so pumped to be able to come on board with ClearPath. And it's been really, I tell them all the time, I appreciate them so much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to do what I do because I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And something else that has been really, as we talk about what you've learned in Texas and serving rural communities, we've got some big initiatives here in Colorado that are aging in place. And when we say aging in place, we're also talking about our rural areas, those underserved across our state. Clearly, we are not quite as vast as Texas, but we also have not really tapped into how can we do a better job with this age in place and serving those areas. And so we have heard and we have shared that this special Texas place is now expanding to Colorado. And we'd love to hear from you about why did you select Colorado to make your first sort of geographic expansion out of Texas?
I'll let JM talk about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So our daughter graduated from the University of Mississippi May of 23. And she and her boyfriend living in Oxford, Mississippi, and both of them, all they ever talked about, since they'd been dating, and even Landry before dating him, was, I want to live in Colorado. We're going to live in Colorado, blah, 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 Colorado, Colorado, Colorado. I'm like, okay, whatever you want to do, that's great. And so she graduated and she's looking for her master's degree program in psychology. And of course, where is she looking? Colorado. And there were a couple of schools there that she was really, really interested in. One of them happens to be Northern Colorado University in Greeley. And that was her number one choice. They accepted her. So there we go. She's moving there. Michelle and I come up early to try to find some housing for them. And we're in Fort Collins and we're just kind of looking around. We're going around the city and we're like, this looks really good. This is like prime home care right here, And then we had been to Greeley, we had been to Loveland. I think we'd even been to Broomfield. And it was just like, this feels right. We ought to do a little research here and maybe this is an expansion opportunity for us. And it absolutely was. And I have enjoyed every second of being in Colorado on the professional side. Of course, the personal side is wonderful. I mean, being there is just amazing, but the professional side has really blown me away. You guys do an amazing job. It's so different in Texas because, and I don't know if it's just it's a little bit smaller, but it seems much more connected. You all seem much more connected. In Texas, it feels very disconnected at times because we have these major cities that are hours and hours and hours from each other. So we really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's a great story, and you get to see your daughter. And so it sounds like it's something that's going well, kind of in the early phases here, or how can you give us a little update as to how it's going?
Yeah, so we're in the application phase of the licensing, and we're any day we're just waiting for the phone call that we're going to get scheduled for surveys. So as soon as that happens, we feel, really good about the relationships that we're building, and we feel really good about the areas that we're going to serve, because we know we're going to be able to serve those rural areas. That is the heart of what we do. So we're
Can you
super pumped.
talk about your home base? We talked before the show is going to be the Fort Collins area, and then you're going to start to can you provide a little more detail as to what areas you're going to start serving?
Yeah, so our brick and mortar is actually in Fort Collins. We already have our office. It's not far from the square, maybe, I don't know, a mile from the square. Yeah. And then we will be serving up toward the border, Wyoming border, out toward Estes Park, down toward Boulder, across Broomfield, Lafayette. We'll hit all those, and then up Loveland, and then back up toward Greeley. So kind of that little swath right there, and we'll see how things go and expand from there down toward Denver Metro.
And I love that you were mentioning too about Colorado, just your early, as you're looking and in the early days of building up your business here, that we feel really connected because I would say even but a few years ago, that necessarily would not have been. I mean, I love hearing that because the feedback that we were getting from those in the industry and beyond was they felt siloed within the industry here in Colorado, and which is really sort of the inspiration behind building the Collaboration in Aging Unconference, and then our meetup series is to basically achieve how you're feeling coming in as a newcomer and expanding into Colorado, is that we are bringing together all of the different facets of the entire continuum within senior care and beyond. So we can start having more of those communications, because we know that, JM and Beth, that you have some resources and learnings that you can share with other folks that can just make us a better state and better providers, and be able to up-level our mission. So that's awesome to hear that was the way that felt.
Yeah, Colorado has a very collaborative feel, but also very open arms. It's such everybody wants to be your friend. They don't care if you're a competitor. Texas is just a very different feel when it comes to, and people seem to think outside the box in Colorado too, which we absolutely love.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's great. Yeah, a little blown away. That's your sentiment on it, because there were definitely a few, I'd say 3-4 years ago, that was not the feeling in any capacity. So that actually warms my heart to hear that. Yeah. Can we talked a little bit about veterans benefits. Can you guys elaborate a little more on what you've done in Texas around the veterans program, as well as what you hope to bring to Colorado to serve those, couple 100,000 veterans that are that are over that age of 65? Can you please, shed some, insight into that element of what you guys do?
Yeah, there's a couple of different programs that we use within the VA. So we've been contracted with the VA since, I believe, 2016 or 17. I can't remember the exact date. So it's been 6-7 years. Mm-hmm. And we started with the aid and attendance program, and that's a program that has some finite rules around it. It's a little more restrictive, but it's still a really good program. You can be a veteran, you can be the spouse of a deceased veteran, you can take care of a veteran and his spouse at the same time, but there are some service-related questions that you have to get beyond, like the amount of assets that you have. There's only a certain amount of hours you can receive, or amount of money you can receive for a service benefit. And then if you have other things that that you're using for your service benefit, you may not qualify. So it can be a little restrictive. We just kind of have to go through that process with the client. The other one is community care, or the community care network offered via the VA, and they've now have a third party processor who does the claims and the billing part of that, which is TriWest, and they cover the western half of the United States. And that program has been robust for us. It waxes and wanes a little bit because it's all dependent upon what Congress decides the VA budget is going to be, which is probably always less than it should be, but we got to work with what we get. But you basically, if you can go see a VA doctor, and we highly encourage them to do that, they can recommend home care. And we had a client at one time, and this could have been a mistake, that got 24/7 care through the VA.
Wow.
That's wonderful, though.
And normally it's about 25 to 35 hours a week, which is still pretty good, though. So we probably have over 150 veterans that we serve in probably 75 different counties or so here in Texas.
Wow.
And you can combine aid and attendance with community care, with private pay.
Oh,
You can really build up some robust hours for veterans that need them.
that's fantastic. Are you finding veterans don't know about these benefits? I mean, is there a big gap of education around that stuff?
Huge. I wish I could get on a big bullhorn on one of your big top Rocky Mountains and just scream to them, you have so many benefits that you have no idea about.
Interesting. Wow.
And sometimes it's not about them. Sometimes it is they don't know about it, but sometimes it's so much work, or it's confusing, or they thought that they filled out this paper right, but they didn't fill it out, so there's a lot of red tape around it too. And you have to jump through the hoops, and you have to do it just a certain way, and all these things. So I think some of them are just like, oh, forget it. They tried and it's too much. So they just say, forget it. But there are programs out there that will help handhold them through the process. And we do that as well.
That's what I was going to ask, because that is, if you're already confused, overwhelmed, you're not feeling great, and you need help, and any sort of added friction, even though the result and the benefit on the other side might give you the relief that is so worth it, you can't see that. Yeah. So knowing that you would actually offer the hand-holding to help get folks through that process, that maybe would be something wonderful to follow up for another podcast. Is what are the top 4 steps, and how do we get started, and how can we kick that off, and see where we can maybe partner to start educating folks on that, so you can scream from your mountaintop. Might just be the flat irons for a little bit, but what that would look like.
I think that's so needed, because my dad's a veteran. My grandfather was a 23-year retired veteran. And so it took a lot of, and he passed in 2016, but it took a lot of work back then to acknowledge some of the, in-home stuff that was not aid and attendance, because finally he had dementia, and they finally acknowledged it was from his 2 tours he did in Vietnam and Agent Orange, right? But it was, my dad, it was tooth and nails to kind of the back and forth between the VA and in New York at that time. And, they're acknowledging of the chemical impact, on the brain that Agent Orange had. But a lot of veterans just need to be pointed. So I think it's an awesome service that you guys will help them in stride, because I think that's what's needed for a lot of our veterans, is getting the support they rightfully deserve and have earned, quite frankly.
Yeah. I feel like they need to. I feel like they are giving more veterans that disability that they deserve. I think that needle seems to be moving in the right direction, but there's also a lot of pride there too. A lot of those veterans are very prideful, and they're like, no, I'm not disabled. Well, you are. You have experienced these things, and you have provided service to your country. You need to, do these things to get the benefits that you deserve.
Yeah.
So
I think to that point, I think that we've also seen, and not a ton of examples, but a few examples of, there's a level of mistrust there as well. And you talked about, Francis, with your dad, lot of them have gone, and this is more in the past, but the programs, they've improved a lot.
Yes, they have. Yes.
So, but people don't forget the way they were treated 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, and they're like, no, I don't think I want to be part of that anymore.
Yeah, my dad takes advantage of the community care network for, some of his stuff now that they've acknowledged that he's definitely, has a lot of injuries tied to his time of service. And he went to West Point as well, too. So he's got those years as well. But it's, again, it took him a while, and he was pretty sound mind, and it took him a while to navigate. He figured it all out and got everything he needed, but it's definitely becoming more acceptable, which I think is great. That, even for him at first, if I would have asked him 10 years ago to do this, he would have said, absolutely not, no way. But, now that he's realizing there's a lot of benefit to it, and they've worked a lot, they've changed a lot since my grandfather's time, and, 15, 16, right? It's really encouraging to see that, we're making it acceptable. And I also think it's okay to get some help as we age, right? It doesn't mean that you stop living, right? It's the idea that let's facilitate and assist and augment so you can continue to live the best life that you want on your terms. I think that is the most important thing we have to advocate for.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love that you said that, because I always think about people contact us or other resources when they're in super crisis mode. Mm-hmm. And if people would, be educated enough to plan for before the crisis happens, so that we're already in the mix and helping them prior to that happening. But yeah, I get what you're going with that. That's hard to plan ahead.
I think it's the education and awareness that we're hitting on so many points here. Not only the legacy of veteran care, what it was. We also are talking about ego, right, for all humans, but in terms of all older adults, as we all age, we're all proud, and admitting help, I think back in the day, was a sign of weakness.
Yeah,
right. And now it's about all of us also really working on educating that actually getting support is really a sign of strength. And by the way, these veterans. Francis, I love the way you said that, is these injuries from serving. That's an honor, right? Is that you're not disabled. It was just the way that you phrase that. We've been talking a lot about the power of words, and how it makes people look at our industry about care, and it lets us either take down our guard or build it up really strong. Right. And so earlier this year, we did a big talk about the word facility, and we called it the F-bomb.
Yeah.
The F-bombs. And we don't call them facilities because do you want to live, or do you want your mom or your aunt to live in a facility? Right. Or do you want them to live in a community?
Or a home, right? Or a home or a residence
or
something.
A home or a residence, and that our words matter. And are you disabled? Are you weak? Do you need, so therefore you need care? Or did you serve and have you earned the right for more support because you deserve it and you're worth it and it's available? And let me walk you through because you've earned this.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
So I just pulled up, we got a comment on LinkedIn that I think will be an interesting discussion here. Is there an AI app to help folks through the process, or could that be built? I mean, we obviously aren't going to solve that today, but I thought, it's interesting. Some of these, this is a prime example, right? Of we want to think outside the box, right? Not just, kind of going down the rabbit hole, but I think that might be a deeper discussion there around, what technology can do.
Yeah. And, we're constantly having that discussion in our team, and how we can use AI to our advantage and how we can use technology to our advantage. But we also still know that in our industry, the human touch and the human presence it's unmatched. You can't match that with AI. So that we got to figure out the ways that we can use a technology to our advantage, but then still provide that human touch.
I think that's so well said. I'm a firm believer AI is here to augment and supplement, not replace. Yeah. We need, there's nothing like holding someone's hand when they're a little bit disoriented or they're lost and they're just not sure what's going on in the world around them, right? That human connection, that human energy, that transfer of energy amongst people, or the way you can look somebody in the eye and they can feel that you actually care, right? That that emotional connection is something that is second to none. That, the ones we take care of are the ones we serve. That's what they deserve. They need to know that it's okay for us to give time to them to show we care.
Yeah.
We can keep going. We can keep talking longer. I definitely think we have to have a deeper discussion around veterans benefits, the awareness, all of that stuff. So how can people learn more about, ClearPath? What are best avenues? What are, ways to get in contact with your team and you all?
I think the best way is to go to our website, clearpathhomecare.com. That will take you to each one of our offices and where they are, give you all kinds of information about ClearPath. And you can also reach out to me or JM and Michelle. We are all over LinkedIn, so you can always find us there.
And I'm pulling up your website here. So is the best thing for them to kind of go to the office that's within their county region, or is there a main number to call?
Yeah, so there is a little box that will say find my office, and you put in your zip code, and then it will take them right to the office that serves their zip code.
Okay. That is fantastic. That's really great. And you guys have a great website, tons of useful information. I have to say, I know we're running short on time, but I love all your different service options that you have and how you can really get specific around the different types of care and things that you guys can offer. And I love the transition from home. This is one that really is often overlooked. So I applaud you and your team for being dedicated to that type of programming. Great program and so needed.
We also just got all of our team, our care relationship managers and our business development team is all senior home safety specialist certified.
Wow. Yeah. Very cool. That's awesome.
And as far as contacting us, even if this is another healthcare related question and you can't find the answer, give us a call. One of us is going to be able to reach out or know the answer to your problem. The healthcare industry in general is very confusing. I mean, it is massively confusing. So if you have a question about it, call us. If we don't know the answer, we're going to know somebody who does.
That's wonderful. Love it. Thank you so much. And Beth, JM, thank you for what you guys do. And I mean that. Thank you for venturing into the great state of Colorado and really trying to bring your Texas flair to the, to the
Colorado flair.
Yeah. I think it's, it's a great opportunity to really, again, continue to enhance the services offered to Colorado's older adults and their veterans. So thank you both. And, as Cambria said, we're going to have to dive deeper into this veterans awareness. So we will definitely have a longer discussion about how we can do some webinars or some training and awareness around that. So appreciate your knowledge. And Cambria, I'll let you wrap it up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Beth and JM, for being huge supporters of not only Colorado, but of our older adults and their families. We look forward to welcoming you with open arms to Colorado and connecting you with everyone on our end, and also just following your example of what you've built in Texas, the example of being transparent, letting your people and your customers really spread the word of your difference. And let's raise the bar because you're shaking things up. So welcome.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Till next time, go out, be kind, and pay it forward.